Begin the current Daf Masechet the Rosh Hashanah Daf. We begin on the second line down at the top of the Yomim. The Gemara is in the middle of a discussion, two different versions of Rav Nachman, whether he asked a question or he was supporting a previous teaching regards to the Adar Samach Nisan, if that is always 29 days or sometimes 29 and sometimes 30 days. This corresponds to today's Daf. Some of the things discussed in today's Daf are a discussion of Kiddush HaChaydish, regarding which months we may be Machal Shabbos in order to give over testimony regarding the new moon. That's the discussion on the Beis regarding the witnesses. Whether Bezdin can manipulate the Kiddush HaChaydish for certain needs of Klai Yisrael to actually change when Kiddush HaChaydish is supposed to be. Whether the months are set as Mole and Chaser, meaning it's always like that, or Bezdin can designate each month as Mole or Chaser. Can they decide to do that? The concept of Soda Ibur, which is one of the Dafim that discuss how the affects the calculations of the Moiled and the new moon regards to the actual Moiled itself. Sources of how we know the Jewish day goes from nightfall to nightfall, and as that relates to the halachas of Kiddush HaChaydish. So the key terms the concept we're going to discuss today are Chaydish Male, Chaydish Chaser. Chaydish Male, the way it is that the month is 29 and a half approximate days. So the way it is that you have to switch off 29 and 30 days, which that relates to the halacha of the Moiled Halavana, which is that the Moiled is actually when the sun and the moon are aligned, and then you can't see the moon at all. That's called the Moiled. That's because, as we'll explain, hopefully to some extent, that when the sun and the moon go around over the month, the moon keeps on falling behind, getting bigger and bigger and bigger because you see the reflection more, and then finally it lines up, and then you don't see it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because, so to speak, like the sun's catching up, and then it lines up. That's called the Moiled Halavana. And so the Ibra is this brisa that was written by Chazal that talks about a lot of these concepts, because it's not really 29 and a half days. There's another 44 minutes and 3 and the third seconds, and those add up. And there's also Loya Durosh, which Rosh Hashanah cannot be in certain days. And because of all these calculations, there's a whole cheshbon exactly how to make the Kiddush HaChaydish, and that these ideas are written in this brisa of Sodi Ibur. So we begin the current Daf Chav. Second line down at the top of the Yomid, we had mentioned the previous Daf where they sent to Maruk for the Adar Samach Nisan L'Olam Chasam. Whichever one is it, Adar Sheni or the regular year, the Adar that's near to Nisan is always only 29 days. And that Rav Nachman brought a brisa in the first version was asking. It said in the brisa that on the next Mishnah that said on 2 months we're Machal Shabbos on Nisan and on Tishrei. We said we're on Nisan to Pesach and on Tishrei because Rosh Hashanah from Sukkot. The question was, if Adar is always a month of 29 days, why shouldn't we be Machal Shabbos? What I mean, you know when Rosh Chodesh Nisan is going to be. And that the Gemara answer, which was the last thing we learned on this second line for top of the Yomid, because it's a mitzvah Kaddish al Pi Ariyah. There's a special mitzvah Kaddish al Pi Eidim, and therefore that's why we let you go ahead and be Machal to be able to testify in court. But you're right, we know when it's going to be, but that we want you to know that we want to do it specifically through, and to the contrary, because we're going to make it without any Eidim coming, we want to be able to have it through the Eidim. Now, that's why Gemara continues, Ikad Amri. Those say a different version. Actually, it wasn't Rav Nachman asking a question, it was Amr Rav Nachman. He was actually coming to support this halacha that Adar Samach Nisan is always going to be 29 days. Now, the assumption of the Gemara right now is that, to the contrary, the Chilul Shabbos that Edom could do to get to Yerushalayim to testify is because it's Mitzvah Kaddish al Pi Ariyah. So therefore he says, Afadana Matidina. It says, what do you mean? We exactly learned this halacha in the Mishnah later on. The Mishnah says, Al-Shnei Chadash Mechal Nes Shabbos for 2 months of the year. The Edom allowed to be Mechal Shabbos. I got out of the Tchum to get to Yerushalayim to testify. What are those 2 months? Al Nisan Tishrei. So it says Rav Nachman, if you say 29 days is always the month before Nisan is always going to be 29 days. So which is that's the halacha that he's coming to support, which was this halacha they sent to Maruk for. That's why you Mechal Shabbos, because the mitzvah Kaddish al Ariyah, because it's a mitzvah to go ahead and sanctify based on the testimony of the witnesses. Because if the Nak Mechal Shabbos comes out, they're going to be Kaddish al Chodesh on the 30th day, because they can make the previous month 29 days without Eidim. But Eliyam, but if you say, says Rav Nachman, that sometimes the 29th day is the Adar before Nisan is sometimes 29 days or 30 days. So wait a second. So the Kiddush HaChodesh is dependent on the courts. As the Gemara says later on Daf Chafim and Aleph, when it says Atem, in the pasuk of you make the Moedim, is even Mezidim. Doesn't make a difference what their intention, even deliberately if they do the wrong one, it's going to be based on what they're saying. So why are they being Mechal Shabbos, the witnesses, to get to the Bezdin? To go ahead and tell them that they saw the new moon, let the courts institute that they shall wait to day 31, and not to have the witnesses be Mechal Shabbos, and let them come the following day and testify, and then the Mekadesh is based on them. So Na'abri Ha'idno, let them extend this day, meaning the day 30, let them actually make it for Adar, and V'nikache L'mocher, and sanctify the next day on day 31. If you're telling me you could do something Moli, something's Chaser, so why be Mechal Shabbos? Let them come a day later. Oh, it's Geshpad, that no, it's always going to be Chaser. It's always going to be 29 days. If we don't get it today on Shabbos, they're going to do it without us. And because the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Piriyah, and that's what the Gemara assumes right now, that's why. So you see that the Adar Samach Nisan is always going to be 29 days. But says the Gemara, no, the Gemara rejects the Raya. What? Then they went on Friday. Oh, so that's what the Gemara is saying right now. Well, that's what the Gemara is saying now. So the Gemara says, you're right. If day 30 was on Shabbos, and that's the day they saw the Levana Sachanami, you're right. And it's not a Raya of Nachman. We would extend it, because either could be 29 or 30 days, and we would not be Mechal Shabbos. Ha'achal be here that we're teaching you the next mission that you are Mechal Shabbos. But my Eskinan, what are we talking about? We're actually talking about the Iklayim Shleishim Echad B'Shabbos. The day 31 came on Shabbos, and they didn't see the new moon yesterday, rather today. Oh, if they're not going to go, so the courts are going to Mekadesh it today, because there's no month that's more than 30 days, and now on day 31 they Mekadesh it as the new month of Nisan, and they can do it now with witnesses. Therefore, we're Mechal Shabbos, the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Riyah. The Mitzvah Kaddish, there's no Raya to you that it's Adar is 29 days. No, it could be 30, but today's already day 31, and therefore they're going to do it without you. But then, but this was all with the assumption of that the Chil was for it to be Mekadesh Al Piriyah. But Master Rav Kahana ultimately refutes this, because the Mishnah there later on says, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, Machal and Aval Kulam, the witnesses to Mechal Shabbos for every month to get to court to testify they saw the new moon. Why? It's a carbon, because to institute for the carbon, this is the Muslim Rosh Chodesh has to be on the right day. So because of that, they were always Mechal Shabbos. Now, says the Gemara, Midukulu la mishum the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Riyah, and the fact that you tell me that every single month that they weren't Mechal Shabbos, so that they can sanctify based on the witness's testimony. You tell me it's only for the carbon. But without that, they wouldn't be Mechal Shabbos to be Mekadesh Al Piriyah. So Nisha should never let Mishon the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Riyah. So that must mean that Nisha is also not, that there's no Mitzvah Mekadesh based on testimony of witnesses, and that's what Mechal Shabbos. If the point was to Mekadesh Al Piriyah, then you should be doing that every month, not just Nisan and Tishrei. Rather, the reason is because of the Yom Tovim that come out in those 2 months, according to the Moed Labana. So therefore, we refuted the concept of doing it because of Mitzvah Kaddish Al Piriyah. That's not the idea. As we see from all the other months, it's only because of taking carbon. So then we're back to the question. To the contrary, it's really like the first version of Nachman had it now. And now we're asking on this halacha of Marukva, not supporting it. If you say that sometimes Adar is 29 days and sometimes 30 days, I can understand why Mechal Shabbos to get to the courts, so that you go ahead and you get it the right day because of the Tikkun Alaydos. But if you say it's always going to be 29 days, why Mechal Shabbos? Without this witness, we're still going to make it 29 days. And don't tell me you're shtikl Torah the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Piriyah, because we see that Lahad it's not. Because we told you it's only because of the Tikkun carbon. Because the Mitzvah Kaddish Al Piriyah, then we would do every month for that reason. So the Gemara Tiyufta, yes, that definitely refutes this halacha, and that it's not true that Adar Samach Nisan always 29 days. Some years it could be Chaser, and sometimes it could be Malah. Now, continue on this theme regarding the Kiddush HaChodesh of Nisan and Tishrei, which are the months before that we just discussed Adar. Now, Kiyasa Ulu, and Ula had come to Babel once. Amar, he said, Ibru El, the courts extended El, they made it into a full month, not the regular 29, they made it into 30 days. So Ula said, who he just made this announcement, he says, Yad Chavin Bavloi, do our Babylonian counterparts, in other words, are you guys paying attention to appreciate Bimakar Toiv, what the people of Eretz Yisrael, my Tevusa Avdina Bahadayu, what a favor they're doing with them the people of Babel that they extended El for you? Says Gemara, my tibu. So what's this big favor? As Taisa says, what do you mean? You're extending El. Better don't ever be ma'aber, so that we shouldn't have 2 days of suffix. What's this grace and taiva that they did? That it's that they extended El to make it a 30-day month. So this is what we had referred to on the previous daf. Ula says Meshum Yerakaya. You have to separate Shabbos and Yom Tov one from the other, so that the vegetables that are eaten raw on Shabbos after Yom Tov and Yom Tov after Shabbos, that it doesn't wilt, because you have 2 days that you can't do anything with it because it's Yom Tovim and Shabbos. So it's a big favor that we don't have that a 2-day Yom Tov or a 2-day Shabbos. Rabbi Shloimy says Mishem Messiah. He says, meaning in other words, in that year it would have been that Yom Tov would have been on a Friday or would have been on a Sunday. So it's saying that they did a favor. Now that they extended the month, now it pushed off a day, and now it's not connected anymore. And Rabbi Shloimy says Mishem Messiah. He says the reason is that Yom Kippur would have been on a Sunday, let's say. So you have to push off Shabbos and Yom Kippur one from the other, because we don't want that the person who died on the first of one of them, let's say, was Friday night. Now you're not going to have to bury him not on Shabbos and not on Sunday Yom Kippurim, and that's going to cause the body to decompose. So they pushed off, they extended El to make it 30 days, and now Yom Kippur falls out a day later. So it's going to fall out on Sunday night. So if someone would die on Friday night, they'll be able to bury it on Sunday, and then you wouldn't have to wait more than 48 hours to bury him. So the Gemara says, "My benai, what's the difference between them?" In other words, both always apply. The vegetables are wilting just as much as the person. So why do you need these two pshatim? Says Gemara, the difference between them is Yom Kippurim shechalis achar Shabbos. The difference is if Yom Kippurim falls out on Sunday, meaning had you not extended the El, that's the difference between them. As the Gemara explains, the one that says that the reason is because of a dead person, somebody done. So then you would extend El, and you would have to push it in Yom Kippurim to Monday, because obviously that's relevant that you're not going to bury the person for that Shabbos and Sunday. But according to the one that says the reason because the vegetables, when do you need the vegetables? La'orta, you're not eating on Yom Kippurim, it's only for Matzah Yom Kippurim. La'orta Torah Maisi, so then Matzah Yom Kippurim you'll put in the effort and you'll bring it then on Sunday night. So you don't have to pick it on Erev Shabbos and say, oh, I picked on Erev Shabbos, it's going to wilt over Shabbos and Sunday, and by the time the Suda comes Sunday night, it's going to be ruined, and the grace of time they're doing. No, that wouldn't make us be ma'aber. You would go ahead and Matzah Yom Kippurim, you would go ahead and pick some vegetables and get it then. But then the Gemara says, no, that's not a good interpretation, because Lamanda Mishum Yirkai, according to the one that says the reason because of vegetables, La'abim Mishum Messiah. He should definitely agree to the rationale of because of a dead person. That itself should be a reason to extend it. So that can't be a case that would be enough. Similar says the Gemara, the difference between them is a different case. Yom Tov hasamach l'Shabbos. If you have a Yom Tov that's right near a Shabbos, whether Yom Tov is on Friday or whether Yom Tov is on Sunday, that's enough community. Because Mandam Shemir Kai Mabrin, according to the one that says reason because the vegetables, you can't pick vegetables on Yom Tov, so it's going to wilt in that amount of time. But a Mandam Shemir according to the one that says because of dead people, it's not true. Amami, because you could bury with a non-Jew, as the Gemara says in Be'ed Avav Medalef. If a person dies on the first day Yom Tov, second day maybe even a Jew could do, but the first day even the Gentile could do, even on the first day. So that wouldn't be enough according to the Mandam of Messiah. Says the Gemara, yeah, but Ramanda Mishum Messiah, similar like we said around the first interpretation, one that says the reason because of a dead person, who wouldn't be applicable on 2 days of meaning a Yom Tov and Shabbos, but then you should extend it because of the vegetables. What's he going to do with that? So the Gemara says, no, it's not true. He's not concerned about the vegetables. You know why? Because you could soak those wilted vegetables in something warm, and it would come back to its original freshness. So therefore, that's enough between the two interpretations. The Mandam Messiah is not concerned for Yerikaya. But then says the Gemara, okay, fine. Those are two pshatim why we're extending El. But if that's the case, Maishna l'didan, then what's the difference that they're saying that this is a great taiva for us and Bavel? I feel like the Dunami. That why do we owe them such grace? They needed the same reasons too in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, no, it's not true. Because l'didan for us in Bavel, chaval and alma. The climate is very hot and very warm, and there's a lot of steam because Bavel is very deep. And it's not like Eretz Yisrael, that's mountains and hills like in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore there's no real ventilation, there's no air. So therefore, yes, the vegetables and the dead would really quickly decompose. But for them in Eretz Yisrael, it's not such a warm climate. It has cool, mild climate. And therefore, they wouldn't have such a concern to extend the El because of Messiah Erikaya, and therefore it's only for us. And therefore they were saying, do you know what a favor that we're doing for you in Eretz Yisrael and extending the El?
But they extended the El every year or just
no.
Only when
Right, only when it would be a situation when you would have, depending on the Manda Amar, Yom Tov near Shabbos or Yom Kippurim on, let's say, a Sunday, where then you would have the problem with Messiah. But now the Gemara goes and asks on the whole premise. Is that really so? You're telling me that really El was supposed to be 29 days, and we made it, we did a grace of time, we made it 30 days. Are you allowed to go ahead and extend a month because you have a necessity? He says, you would think just like you extend a year when there's a need, and that's the famous halacha like we have in this year, but Ibiyah, when you're extending the year, you're adding another month, and Adar Sheni, and we do that because of the Aviv, which is the springtime, which is the tkufa, and or for the fruits of the tree, as the Gemara says in the first bracket, and then Daf Yomi. There are reasons why we have to go ahead and extend the year. So you would think, so too, you would extend a month, which is to make it a 30-day instead of 29 days, if you have a need. Tamalema says no, Rabbi Shloimy says no. It says in the pasuk in Shmos, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodashim. This month, HaChodesh hazeh, this month is for you, the first of the months. What does that mean? This kazeh re'ei b'kadesh. Like this, you should see and sanctify. Meaning, once you saw the new month, which Hashem was showing Moshe Rabbeinu, then you got to sanctify that day. So you're not going to just extend it if you have a need. So what does this mean? If we're supposed to be 29 days because they saw it already, how can they make it 30 days? So the Gemara says, no, Amar Rabbi says, like, it's not difficult. Because Kan la'abre. Ula was talking about extending, meaning if it's chaser, to make it male, which was what Ula was saying happened, it was really supposed to be 29 days, made 30 days, that you're allowed to do. Kan lekadshay, the Bryce was talking about that actually it was supposed to be a male and you're making it a chaser. You can sanctify it on day 30, not 31, and the moon wasn't even seen yet. Now, the problem would be if they're going to wait till the following day. Shabbos and Yom Kippurim are going to be near each other. So we have a tzarech to say, no, let's say it was today and not tomorrow. That's what the Bryce is saying, no. You cannot be Mekadosh and make it earlier, even though you have a tzarech. And this is what the Bryce was saying of Rabbi Shmuel. You would think you have to add on some words. You would think just like you're allowed to extend the year and you're allowed to extend the month if there's a need to make it male, to make it a day later. You would think so too. You're allowed to be Mekadosh, which means to say to sanctify it earlier. Really, we didn't see it on day 30 yet to make the previous month 29. It's really going to come tomorrow, but we need to make it like a day earlier. So you would think you're allowed to do that. That says in the pasuk, this month should be for you. What does that mean? Like this, you should see and sanctify. It's like Rashi explains. It means differently now based on what the Gemara is answering. What does it mean, Kezer Kadesh? Like this you should see. You have to first see it and then sanctify it. Here you don't see anything. There's no Re'eh B'Kadesh because it wasn't seen yet. You want to make up this old story and do it earlier, that you can't do. But if you're extending that was Re'eh B'Kadesh, you just didn't do it right away. So therefore, that you're allowed to do is that's a resolution to that question. You're allowed to be Ma'aber, but you cannot be Mekadosh. I mean, you're allowed to make it bigger, but you cannot make it smaller. As the Gemara says, like this of Rabbi Shimon Levi had taught. He said, you can intimidate the witnesses regarding a month, the moon that was seen in its time, meaning it was seen on day 30. You can tell them to be quiet because you want to extend it. Shh, don't say you saw it. We're not doing it today. We're doing it tomorrow. Like we said, that was what Ula's teaching was, But you cannot intimidate on day 30. Alo Eidim, quote unquote, it's not really Eidim because we're talking about the fake witnesses that didn't see it yet. You cannot intimidate them that it was not seen in this time, like Kachai, to go ahead and do it earlier. I mean, we have to do it earlier because we need to separate Shabbos and Yom Kippurim to say, let's say we saw it, and then we'll make it based on your false testimony. No, that was like what Rabbi Bar Shmuel had said, that no, you can't do that. You can't make it earlier, you could do it later. So that resolves the contradiction. But the Gemara says, is that really so? But Rabbi Yehuda Nesil Rabami, he says, you should know, all the days of Rabbi Yehuda, he would teach us that ma'aymin ala edim, that you can intimidate the witnesses on a month that was not seen in its time. Meaning it was not seen, when we call it time, we call it like day 30, which means the previous month was 29 days. We don't, he says we do intimidate them like Kadeshai, to sanctify it. If let's say we need to make it chasa for some reason, to make it of the previous month, 29 days. Even though they did not see it, they should say we saw it. So it clearly contradicts.
How do you intimidate Aiden to say they saw something they didn't see?
Right. Good question. I'll show you after the shit. I'm saying whatever, you do whatever it takes, the tactics, some waterboarding or whatever it is. I saw it, right? So,
they're having second thoughts.
what?
They're having second thoughts. So that's why it's only a situation where they're having second thoughts.
What do you mean second thoughts? Mean
It's an
they
act of
They thought, right. So it said, yeah, zug, yeah. So, but one thing you see is that you do make it earlier than you have to. So Amabai still says, no, it's still Lokash. I'll tell you why. Because this teaching Rabbi Yechanan is specifically Benisa B'Tishrei. All the Yom Tovim are dependent on these 2 months when you're Mekadeshin. So then you actually would do it earlier if you had a need. So it's like another splice of explaining. But Rabbi Shloimy Levi, he was B'Shar Yarchi. This was talking about in other months. Other months, you can't make it earlier even though you had a need. Now, Rashi says, wait a second, what type of needs do you have by other months to make it less or more? The whole shtickle Torah until now was because let's say Yom Kippurim or the Yom Tiv. But these other months don't have these considerations. So what would you tell me that it's only there that you can't do it in Mekadosh earlier because if you had a tzarech, what tzarech are there by the other months? So Rashi says, I'll tell you what. For example, like we're doing Erech and Avches Mapez, you're not allowed to have, which this is also from all the cheshbonis we have in all our videos out there on all the platforms, Daf Yomi, it's not explaining some of these ideas, but you can't have less than 4 months that are extended in a year, meaning a mali, and you're not supposed to have more than 8. And the Gemara there explains the reason for that. So if let's say they already made 8 mullies, 8 extended months in the year, and we didn't see it this month, number 9, let's say on day 30, comes out, we have to intimidate the witnesses and say we saw it because we need to make it 29, you're not allowed to do that. That's what it would mean, that you're not allowed to intimidate them to make it earlier, B'Shar Yarchi, but on Nisa B'Tishrei you're allowed to. So therefore that resolves that difficult. Now, the Rava, he gives another answer to the difficulty of Rabbi Shmuel, where it says, this is Rabbi Shmuel taught in the Brisa, that you're not allowed to extend, meaning, not like the first version that wanted to be Miyash would say, oh, it's not difficult, that's to be Ma'aber, that's to be Mekadosh. No, the simple understanding was, he holds you not be Ma'aber, and not be Mekadosh, for any purposes, which that was difficult because we had said that you could be Ma'aber, the Chaydish, if you have a tzarech, or possibly Lekadosh, or whatever, but Rabbi Shmuel's simple understanding was he holds that you cannot. That contradicted what we had brought. He says that's not difficult because this price Rabbi Shmuel is going like a specific Tana. It's Achayim. It's like the others who they say that always the months have an exact pattern, which our calendar really has a similar type of idea, but they held with like out of fail, it's always one mali, one chaser, according to the Mailad of Levana, because the truth is, as Rashi says, the months are really, every time the moon in its rotation around the earth is 29.5 days, which it's not exactly like that, there is a little bit of a discrepancy, but that's basically what it is, which essentially is 59 days for 2 months. So therefore, you're always going to have 29, 30, 29, 30, so that's going to give you the 59. So that's why they hold you not be ma'abel tzarech, because it's always got to be mali chasim, mali chasim, mali chasim. So that's what that brisa is going on. And therefore that's not a contradiction to us, who we don't like the Rabbi. It's time to learn the brisa. The others, they say, ain't being so there's no difference between 1 year Shavuos to the next year Shavuos. You want to know the calendar, you're already that planned ahead. You want to know what's next year Shavuos, which cheesecake you're going to get. So it's okay, you could already order it, because Rosh Hashanah, you know automatically, if let's say this year Shavuos is on the Sunday, next year is going to be on the Thursday, because that's the calculation of 12 months. If you do 1 mali, 1 chaser, it comes out to 354 days, which that is the lunar year. And you have 350 are all equal divisible by 7. Right? Those are weeks. So it comes out that the remainder is 4 days. So automatically, the next year is going to be 4 days later. Now, the Ma'aseh Shem Beres, like this year, but let's say it was a leap year, so then actually Chamisha. Then it's going to be now 4 days later, we're going to be 5 days later, because when we add on an extra month, that extra month is chaser, according to the Acherim. So that's going to be 29 days. So 28 days of those are 7 times 4, those are divisible by 7, that's a week, so that takes you back to the same day. And you have one extra day, so therefore that's going to take you to 1 day later, which Tracy does point out from the Gemara Erechin, that what do you do with all the chalakim, right? There's all these chalakim that we say, it's the 44 minutes and the 3.3, the third of a second, so which every 30 years you can have an extra day. Say says, yeah, but since it doesn't come out every single year, so we don't calculate, but you're right, of course, not so simple. It's not, there is a little bit more that goes into that cheshbon. Now, so that was resolving this teaching of Ulam, which had 2 resolutions for this question of Rabbi Shmuel of if could you be ma'abel or could you not? So either you could be ma'abel, but you cannot be makadosh, or we said, well, that's machlekes tanoim. The one that was showing that you cannot is going like that. Now, however, Rabbi Dimon Adamas Ipri, he learns the exact opposite of Rabbi Shimon Levi. Rabbi Shimon Levi had said that you could be ma'abel l'tzarech, but you cannot be makadosh l'tzarech. He says the exact opposite. You could intimidate the witnesses on the new month, which was not seen on day 30. You can intimidate them to make it on day 30. But you cannot intimidate them if it was seen on day 30 to be quiet, to do it on day 31. Exactly the opposite of what Rishon Levi had said. So the Gemara says, my time, what's the reason for his opinion? So the Gemara continues on the basis. I'll tell you why. When it was seen on day 30 and they're not testifying, so these are not the only people that saw it. Many people saw the new moon. So it looks like a lie. It looks like for a fool, so did they extend the year? Because everyone saw, didn't you see the moon yesterday? I saw, you saw. What's going on? It was on the news networks and they're only doing it tomorrow. This is some backhanded things going on, But when it wasn't seen on day 30, and the witness saying we saw it, well, it doesn't look like a lie. No one knows it's a lie. Maybe these guys saw it. Do I know? I didn't see. Maybe it was cloudy, whatever this is that. So therefore he holds exactly the opposite. You're allowed to intimidate Lekachin, but not Labra.
What about the pasuk Chodesh Hazeh? What does he do with that? What does he do with that?
Because
that means it has to be Tikkuna. So if you're making it early,
right, so that we said,
what does he do with that pasuk?
Right. There's I think that he says that to the contrary, that's why you're not allowed to be ma'abed, because then that's actually how the Havamina was on the first opinion, that if you saw it, you have to mekadosh it. Because that Kadesh could mean either you have to see it first in Mekadosh, or if you saw it, then you have to Mekadosh it. Which means you're now b'ma'abed. And that's what this man holds. You're now b'ma'abed. We don't have to see it. If you saw it, then you have to Mekadosh it. That was the Havamina on the first man, Nomen Aleph. Doesn't mean you have to see it. It means if you saw it, then you have to Mekadosh, which means you cannot b'ma'abed, which that's what this man holds. But not that you have to. Now, Amar Shmuel, continue on this whole topic, which really we would love to have way more time to expound on it, but like I said, we have videos on this and you can see it on Old Daf Yomi. But Amar Shmuel, we're just going to hopefully get through the basic understanding of these Gemaras. He says, Yechilna Liskune, says, I can be Masakin without the witnesses' testimonies, L'kula Goyla, for the entire diaspora, where he lived in Golas and he was in Babel, says, because I'm proficient in the Moiled of Lavana and its circuit and the Seder the Mazalis, so I could tell you everything that it's supposed to be, even without witnesses testifying, which actually was made by our calendar by Hillel Sheni, and we actually have something similar to that. So Abba, who was Abu Simloi, the father of Simloi, he said Lishmuel, oh yeah? He said he'll test him. Yoda Mahar Nilsson is the master know this thing, the time of Seder Ibra, that we learned in the Braisa of the Seder Ibra, the secret of the extension, which is a Braisa that's taught in Ramazim. It was in very cryptic terminology, but it was referring to the great secrets of the calendar. It says there in the Braisa, those are the words that it said in the Braisa, which is just a remez, ba'alma, just like alluding to a great secret regarding the intercalation, to say that if the Moiled was before Chatzais, it's going to be different if the Moiled was after Chatzais. Do you know what that means? Amalei says, no. He says, Amalei said to him in the Holy Yodamar, from the fact that the master doesn't know what difference it means if the Moiled was before or after Chatzais, there must have been these other things that the master doesn't know, and therefore you're not as proficient in this as you think you are. Now, Kisol Reb Zir went up to Eretz Yisrael. He sent to his colleagues in Babel 2 things he learned over there in Eretz Yisrael. First of all, halacha is Tzarich sheyehei layla b'yom min hachodesh. Some have the girsa as Chodosh, but it means the same thing, that the day and the night have to be from the same month. from the new month, which means the day goes after the nighttime, that the day should be, if it's going to be for the new month, it has to be from the night beforehand too, which we learned that if the old moon, so to speak, the old moon, which is when it was still before the moiled itself, it was the last slivers that you saw, one shade of it. If it was when it was from when it got dark already in day 29, meaning night of the 30th, if you still saw the old moon, you cannot be mekadosh anymore as the new moon, as the new month, on day 30. Now, Rashi says, obviously you cannot be mekadosh, because you don't see it, you won't even see it on day 30, because the Gemara is going to shortly tell us, on this daf, on this amud, that the moon is invisible for a period of 24 hours. So how can you think to say that if you saw the old moon on the night of the 30th, that you wouldn't be mekadosh it? It's impossible, you wouldn't even see it. Says Rashi, no, you need, according to the one who we just quoted, says that we intimidate witnesses if it wasn't seen on day 30, that you could tell them to say we saw on day 30, and that's what the halach is being said here in this brisa. If you saw the old one on this night, you don't intimidate them to say we saw it, because everyone saw the old one from the last month, and therefore you're not going to say that we saw the new one. So that's what it would mean, that the night and the day have to be from the same month. That's one halacha. Additionally, he told him another halacha. Said, V'zush ama Abba, Avu did Simloi, and this that Abba, the father of Simloi, has said in front of Shmuel, which Shmuel didn't know how to explain. What's the difference if the meal was before Chatzais, or if the meal was after Chatzais? He says, I'm going to explain to you. And he says like this, Mechashrin es told Dasai. We calculate the moiled of the Levan. Again, the moiled means, again, we'll try to explain as much as possible, but the moiled is basically when the, it's like in this picture shows, which is that, basically, I'm not going to explain everything, but the sun and the moon rotate around the earth each day. So basically, it's just going around. See which pictures are just qualified. But basically, the Ma'il Halvan, what's called the conjunction, is basically that the moon is invisible to the human eye because we only get the reflection of the sun, which would only be on like an angle, as you see some of these pictures. And the further along as it goes along the month continues to trail, and therefore you get more of a reflection depending where, and then it gets less as it comes back around. But the Mailid is, it's so to speak, the birth, because you don't see anything, and then it starts all over again. You start seeing slivers and slivers and slivers until when it gets all the way around here, you see the full face of the moon. So we calculate the Mailid of the Levana. What are we calculating? That if it's Nailid Kodim Chatzos, which again, the question of what to say, what not to say, because not giving a shiur on this, but basically the Mailid is going to be at different times and different places and around the globe. But the basic, this is where we're discussing this over here. When we say the Mailid in Shul, we're talking about in Yerushalayim, when the Mailid is in Yerushalayim. And the Reb Zeir is going to say the following teaching. I'll see what I'll add in as we go, but let's try to see the words of the Gemara itself. If Nailid Kodim Chatzais, if the Mailid happened before midday, B'yedua Shenira, then you know that you'll see it today, Samach L'Shkiyas Achama, close to the setting of the sun, because as this picture is illustrating, that the moon is not hidden from the people in Eretz Yisrael, who they're in the west. It's only hidden 6 hours after its renewal, because at that time the sun blocks it. It's very close to it, right? Like we said, by the Moilid, you don't see any of the sun. So the next 6 hours, it's so small. I mean, there is somewhat of a angle that you're getting some of the reflection on the moon, but it's just so close to the sun's bright rays that you don't really see it for the next 6 hours after its renewal. Now, this is the west, and the moon, the new moon, for the 6 hours after its renewal is in what's called Keren Ma'arabas Deremes, is in the southwest, and only 6 hours later do you suddenly start seeing somewhat of and that's for those in Yerushalayim who this is their horizon, that for 6 hours later they'll see it. But without getting confusing, really, the main thing you want to keep in mind is, that's why the pictures could be helpful, but they can also be distracting, is for 6 hours after the Mailid, you're not seeing the moon, its new moon, that's what the Brisa says. You're calculating, and you're not going to see for 6 hours. And again, because we're going based on Yerushalayim. But if, let's say, the moiled was not before chatzais, this was all if the moiled was before chatzais. So 6 hours later, you'll be, let's see which picture was the one that said it the best. Let's say here, 11:20. If it was 11:20 before chatzais, so 6 hours later, it's going to be 40 minutes before Shkia. The sun already set, so it's not blinding the rays, and you're seeing a little sliver of the Lavan. But if, let's say it didn't happen before chatzais, so then you do then you're not going to see it after Shkia Sachama today, because it's small for all those 6 hours, and you didn't see it because then the moon already set under the horizon. So it depends if the moon was before chatzais or after chatzais. Which the Gemara says, "L'may nafkamina." What's the difference to make this calculation? Anyway, we make the new moon based on the witness's testimony. So why do we need to know this cheshbonis? It's very similar. What Rashi says, like chushay sa'adi. The nafkamina is to refute the witnesses. If the moiled, which we know the calculations, if the moiled was after chatzais, we know based on our calculation that the moiled was going to be, the alignment, the conjunction was going to be afternoon, and the witnesses say, oh, we saw the new moon, right, mamash, a few minutes before Shkia. Liars, because you can't say that you saw it today, because we know the moiled was at 1 o'clock, let's say, and for the next 6 hours, and let's say if it's a perfect day, 6 to 6, we know that you're not going to be able to see the moon for the next 6 hours, and therefore, it's a lie. Now, continue on this theme. Amar Reb Zera, Amar Reb Nachman, says, Chav Dalit Shohi Michsi Siara. For a period of 24 hours, and we referenced this just before from Rashi, you don't see the moon for a period of 24 hours, close to the time of its renewal, both before and after the moon is concealed from our ability to see it because of how small it is. 6 hours before its renewal, which is what we call the old moon, so to speak, and 6 hours after its renewal, which we say like it's called the new moon, so to speak, which is hidden from every single person. Beforehand and afterwards, a total of 12 hours. Now, moreover, when it's in the east, what does that mean it's in the east? Which moon is in the east? The one that's in the east is, so to speak, the old moon. That's seen to the people on the east, but not to the people on the west, because it's very small. So even if, let's say, the people on the east could see it, but the people on the west are not going to be able to see it. Well, now, and you could explain this also with calculations based on the actual horizon, but I think just to explain the way Rashi says it will be understood in the context of the way Rashi is saying it. When it's in the west, which is, so to speak, the new moon, so then the people on the west see it, and not the people on the east. Now, so it always is before its renewal, meaning the old moon is in the southeastern corner. After its renewal, as we had shown earlier, is in the southwestern corner. That's Rashi says that he saw by the Yisayidus of Tzad Goy. So therefore, when the old moon is concealed in the east, the people on they're not going to see, the people in the east are not going to see the new moon until 24 hours, because again they're not going to see the new one for 18 hours, and the old one they didn't see for 6 hours. And when it's hidden for the people on the west, they're also not going to see it for a period of 24 hours, as the Gemara explains. Lidi down for us on Babel that we're in the east, so it's hidden Shismatika, 6 from the old one and not more. What's the reason? Because the old moon, again so to speak, before its renewal is in the southeast. So the people in Babel, they see it. There are some pictures, I'm just not going to go through and explain it. They see they're on the east, and for them it's hidden because it gets small, but that's only for a period of 6 hours. Now, at 6 hours after its renewal, we said it's already setting. It's in the southwestern corner. So the people in Eretz Yisrael who are near to the west, they see, not the people in Babel. And also 12 hours after the first 6 hours, it's covered for the people in Babel for B'tam Nisvei Mechavita. They don't see it for 18 hours of the new one, because let's see which one shows it the best. There's a picture that shows it the best, that if you see that the way the horizon works, I would tell you to watch our video, because it's going to show you this idea that the the new one is not, they're not going to see it versus the depending where you are, if you're in the east or the west, you're gonna see based on the where the moon is in its old or its new. People on the east are gonna see the old one for longer, but they can have a bigger gap for the new one, and the people in the west are gonna see the old one less for 18 hours. For them, it's going to be 6 from the new one, like we explained, because at the end of 6, it's going to be seen for the people on the west. And V'tam Nisrei Matika, and it's going to be 18 from the old one, like we explained, because the old one at the end is always in the east. And for those 18 hours, because it's so small, it's not seen to the people on the west. Before that, it was big enough so that would be seen from a great distance. So for everyone, there's going to be a gap of 24 hours. So what's the difference of this halacha? Rabbi says the same idea, like Chushay Sabi, to refute the witnesses. If they say that we saw the old one and the new one within 24 hours, so they're saying a lie. Wherever they are, they can't be that you saw it if there was the old and the new. Now, Amamar, the Gemara just qualifies this teaching of Reb Zera, that he said the first teaching, he said, you have to have the old and the new from the same month. Says Imam Manol, where do we know this from? So he says, a pasuk in Yikra. Pasuk says Shabbat Shabbosin is for you. Benisim es nafshasechem in the 9th of the month. It says be'erev. It says me'erev ad be'erev. This is talking about by Yom Kippur. It says from the evening until the evening. Then it says Tishbesu Shabbatchem. So we learned that the day goes after the night regarding Yom Tovim. I mean, we always know day goes after the night, but we see even for the Yom Tov it says me'erev ad erev. Rosh Hashanah says the pasuk in Shemais. It says on the 14th of the month in the evening you should eat matzahs. It says that Pesach goes up until the 21st day of the month in the evening. So we learned that when does Pesach end? In the evening. So you see that the day goes after the night. So you see in halacha for the Yom Tovim, the day is going to go after the night, which is this idea that Reb Zera is saying that the month, the new month, the day, in regards to the Yom Tovim, it has to be day after the night. So what's in between the two different interpretations? Abayim says, I'll tell you, Mashma is Darshan Ikibinayim. The difference between them is, you're right, there's no real halachic difference. It's just where you're going to darshan it from. Rav says, no, there is a halachic difference. Chatzos Laila Ikibinayim. The difference between them is midnight. Meaning, as Rashi explains, the one who learns it from Yom Kippurim, so the day goes after the beginning of the night, like it says, Me'erev ad erev. And according to him, if you saw the old moon, even in the beginning of the 30th night, the night of the 30th, then you cannot be Mekadosh anymore on the 30th day. But according to the one who learns it out from the matzahs, the other pasuk, the day doesn't go after the beginning of the night, because only from midnight of the first night of Pesach until the end of the 21st day that you're eating matzah is the same halacha of Rishus, as long as you don't eat chametz, as the Gemara says in Arabic Pesachim Daf Kaf Chaf Amud Aleph. Now, but the first half of the night is different than the second half of the night, which actually that's an extension of the Korban Pesach that was slaughtered on the 14th, where the matzah is an obligation to eat with it. According to him, even if you see the old moon in the beginning of the night, you would intimidate the witnesses the next day to say we saw it, if we have to sanctify on day 30 to distance it from Yom Kippur and from Shabbos, because you only see that when it ends. And when did it start? It didn't start on the beginning of the night. It started by midnight. And therefore, that halacha would be the difference if you could intimidate them or not. Now, halacha related, Omer of Zera, Omer of Nachman, says, Kol Sveika, says, anytime we have a doubt regarding what day was the Chaydish, the Kamesha Din, we extend it further. Meaning, we don't have to, essentially what he's saying is that we don't have to make Pesach or Sukkot earlier, which would be, let's say, 14 days of the 30th of Adar or of El because of a doubt that maybe the Beis Din went and made the Chaydish on day 29, which would make the previous month 28-day month. That we don't have to do because they never make a month at 28 days. But we do have to make Yom Tov Sheni on the 16th because maybe the Beis Din extended Adar and maybe they made Nisan on day 31. And so to an El, maybe they didn't make a chaz, maybe they're molek. So you always, whenever you have a sveik in the yama like we do, you always have to do a day later, not a day earlier. Meaning, why do we make Pesach on the 15th and the 16th? Maybe it should be 15th and the 14th. It says, no, you don't. As the Gemara explains, remember that to say, and this is saying, this is what Rav Nachman was trying to tell us, the Chamesha V'Shitzavdin, you make 15th and 16th of Pesach and Sukkot. But Abbei Salevdin, you don't make it on the 14th. Because it wouldn't be possible. It's either going to be a 29-day month or a 30-day month. We're not sure which one. So we always assume that it's chaser, but maybe they're going to make it mu'uber, so that we have to make a day later. Says why? 11 Amar Beisa. Shows have to make the 14th day of Nisan or of Tishrei as Yom Tov, because Dima Chasrula, Abba Chasrula El, maybe they made not only El chaser, but Av also chaser. So it comes out that our day 29 of El, that we thought they extended Av, was actually really day 30, and they made Rosh Hashanah, and so it's regarding Nisan, maybe they made Shvat and Adar chaser, so maybe actually it's a day before. Says the Gemara, as Getin Tav of Chafaf Man Aleph, no, it can't be, because Trei Yarchi Chaseri, 2 months that are chaser, Kala Islahu. The word would get out. Because Rashi explains, Tevis is always 29 days, that's according to the Moed Lavana, which is really how our calendars primarily do it, one Mali, one chaser. Now it would be that not only Tevis, but also Shvat was chaser, and then you're making Adar chaser. So then the word would have gotten out before Pesach, that wow, they made that chaser and that chaser. Even for the place where the Shluchim Bezin of Nisan don't usually get to, we would have heard already from Shvat time already. And so to by Tishrei, if they're making Tammuz and Av, besides El Chaser, because Tammuz is always Chaser, you're making 3 in a row, Chaser, 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 we would have heard about it, and therefore we never have to be concerned that maybe really Yom Tov and Pesach should be a day before, and not a day later. A day later we have to, because we don't know what they just did if the Shluchim Bezin didn't get there. Maybe they made it Ma'uber and not a Chaser. But to think that we have to make Yom Tov a day early, that would not be shliach, because it would have to be 3 chaserim in a row, and we would have heard about it that they made shvat into a chaser, and therefore we don't have to be concerned with that. Thank you to any time.